Allegiance. Call to order the Community Services and Land Use Committee. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon. Ms. Brenna has public notification. Can everyone hear me?
No, yeah.
Now? Okay. Has public notification of this meeting been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act? Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion of approval of the agenda.
So move, Madam Chairman.
We have a motion by Vice Chairman Glover. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, a second by Ms. Brown. I need a motion to approve the minutes from February 13th.
So move.
Okay, Councilman Dawson, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second by Councilman Larson. Okay, we have a huge crowd today. That's great. This is democracy. I would like to read first, before we go into citizen comments, every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall limit their comments to 3 minutes and observe the following protocol. Address the chairman, and in speaking, avoid disrespect to council and any personalities. Confine themselves to questions under jurisdiction of the council. Be mindful and respectful of those who are present and others who may be watching on television. And I think we have an overflow crowd in the other building too. At this time, during the sign-up, we had a total of 7 people, plus our state representative, Michael Rivers, who is here. We are going to hear 5 of those people, as we normally do in any of our public meetings. They will be limited to 3 minutes. We are going to, out of respect for an elected official, let Representative Rivers be the first person, and he is actually he will be part of 6. We will have 5 citizens, but he will be first, and he will speak for 3 minutes. At this time, I'd like to call Representative Rivers forward. If you'll state your name and your address, and which agenda item you came to speak about.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Michael Rivers, 734 Seaside Road, St. Helena Island.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm here to speak on the issue that most people are here about, most importantly for my love for St. Helena Island. But it's 3 specific issues in reference to this that we're talking about. On last week, Governor spoke with Governor McMaster about this issue, and he thinks also that it's incompatible, first of all, with the land use and the environment and the culture on St. Helena Island. Also for me, it's a public safety issue. Currently, the infrastructure can barely handle the traffic and everything that we have now, and I think that would only exacerbate things. Lastly, I think it's kind of disrespectful. I think for me, it's the analogy, or I see it like this: you invite some people to your house, and they like the environment that they're living in, that they were introduced to, but now they want to rearrange the furniture in your house, and because you say that you have a problem with it, they're saying that you're losing your mind. And what we are saying is that 2040 things are going to happen, but right now this is not 2040. And the golf course and the things that are being proposed, it does not fit in with the character of St. Helena Island. And don't insult us while we're living, because we know when our furniture is being moved. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Rivers. I'm going to call the names of the people in the order which they will come forward. We have Mr. Kenneth Doe, Jackie Frazier, Sarah Reynolds Green, Pastor Chisholm, and Carrie Major are the 5 people who signed up first. So at this time, Reverend Doe, if you'd like to come forward.
Madam Chairman and everybody assembled, I'm going to be really brief, try to say a lot. We just pledged allegiance to the flag, and the pledge ended with liberty and justice for all. We're simply looking for liberty and justice for all. And we ask that your conscience lead you in that direction. I've often heard people talk about the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. I believe that the spirit of the law precedes the letter of the law and is the foundation on which the letter is written. When the letter is contrary to the spirit, then the letter needs to be tweaked, not the spirit. So we need to protect, we need to give the protection we've promised to give to this cultural protection overlay district. There's a poem by Edgar Guest I invite and encourage you to check out. It's entitled Myself. And it begins, I have to live with myself, and so I want to be fit for myself to know. I want to be able, as days go by, always to look myself straight in the eye. I don't want to stand with the setting sun and hate myself for the things I've done. If anybody does the wrong thing now, you've got a long time to hate yourself. Do the right thing for St. Helena Island, and that will be the right thing for Beaufort County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next is Jackie Frazier. Come forward. Jackie Frazier. Okay. Sarah Reynolds Green, come forward. If you'll just state your name and your address.
My name is Sarah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Reynolds Green. I live on 12 George East Trail, St. Helena Island. I'm here, and I give thanks to y'all for allowing me to be here. And we are a family-owned farm on Mary Jenkins Plantation. Our farm provides services to our community in many ways. We provide tutorial programs, home-cooked meals to our community, and we also mentor our youth and adults in entrepreneurship and how to be good stewards of our environment. Growing up in the Gullah community, I learned early that we had a tradition about us. We help one another. We help. If you didn't have much and I had little, you gave me or helped me to come to do whatever I needed to do in order to do whatever we needed to do to get things done. We live in harmony with nature because it sustained us and our way of life. In this present era, we are moving more into the me culture and less of the we culture. With an affluent homeowners, as our affluent homeowners move here, it is not long before we see an increase in the cost of living, property taxes, goods and services, medium income, and the quality of living for the poorest members of our community. Whites, blacks, Hispanic, whoever suffers the most. Listen to these data points on St. Helena and Beaufort County. The average cost of living, the average cost of a single-family home in 2022 was $414,000. St. Helena has one of the highest rates of poverty. The annual household income in Beaufort County is $80,000, and the median income is $63,000. Remember, the median income is the benchmark to determine income eligibility for essential services like housing. Presently, Beaufort County Housing Authority has 4,000 families waiting for housing. These incomes does not reflect the majority of people that live in our Gullah community. Just imagine the impact of adding 100 luxury homes and 72 docks on Pine Island. How does this ease the already burdened cultural rivers, creeks, oceans, marshes, soil, and air quality? In closing, I want our leaders to do the right thing, to take a step back and look at what the development in this community is causing our coastal region to fall apart and destroy. And we would like the owner to come together and work with the community, the local, federal, state organizations, and come to an agreement and negotiate a way where all of us can enjoy Pine Island and St. Helena.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Pastor Henry Chisholm, please come forward.
Madam Chairman. My name is Henry Chisholm Jr., pastor of St. Helena. Jehovah Church of Jesus Christ, St. Helena Island. And I live over there on Eddings Point, Locust Lane, 20 Locust Lane. I was a commercial shrimper for around 38 years in business. And also, I work as a shrimper on the shrimp boat for 9 years. So I had a lot of experience with the ocean, almost 50 years of it. And what I see happening today and what I have seen in our estuaries from the runoff from golf courses and different things, it's destroyed the oyster shell banks, the shrimp, the crabs, the clam. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm one of those been here. That's where I am. I'm born and raised right on St. Helena Island. And I saw a lot of things happen, but I saw a lot of changes also. And the changes that I seen was not good. It was not good for our estuaries. Now, I have seen the clam bed just disappeared. I've seen the oyster shells that will not produce itself, all because of the runoff on different things, from different things. And if you want to take some example, ride down 802 and look over there on that island. You see all the trees dead. You'll see the marsh going to come back. It tells you that something is happening on the land that caused the water to run down and destroyed the trees and the root of the marsh. This is what a golf course will do. It will destroy our shrimp, our clams, our oysters, and blue crabs. I know I got 38 minutes, but let me say this. That I used to make many trips over there to Charleston and environmental and our different ones that does the study. And so they were saying some 20 years ago, it said by putting these baits and stuff in the river, it will not destroy anything. Well, it depleted the catfish, all because they feed off the bottom. And I know my time is up. I'm a very timely. Please, I said this today, that somebody will get some understanding.
Thank you. Carrie Major. Carrie Major. Thank you.
Because you cut off at 7 persons, and I will allot my time to Queen Quet.
Ma'am, we're not
do
going to
that?
do that tonight. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, then I will speak. I'm Carrie Major. I'm a native of St. Helena Island. I've been there for 62 years. 8 years I've spent in the city of Beaufort. I'm 70 years old. And I was a part of the initial planning with Mr. Joe Sherman and others. And the reason that we did that, because we saw what development did to Hilton Head. And we do not want that on St. Helena Island. We want St. Helena to stay rural. We want to save our ecosystem. We want to save our shrimp and our crabs and all those things. And no more gated communities, no golf courses. The traffic is heavy now, and so can you imagine, once you build that up, what's going to happen? My father lived on what they call Tom Fripp Plantation, right down on Delamo Road. It used to be Tom Fripp Road. It was changed to Delamo Road. And so Pine Isle is there. My grandfather worked on Pine Isles, where I know the area, and I know what's going to happen if we allow this to happen to St. Helena Island. Not only will they start the building on Pine Isles, they will move in other areas like Land's End. It will destroy our island. So as we stand, you see the number of people that came today. We are against it, and we pray that all of you here will make the right decision to not give the developers permission to destroy our island. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jack,
Madam Chairman.
yes.
Because one speaker didn't speak, would you allow for?
Well, we have another person on the
Okay.
list. The next
Thank you.
person on the list would be Emmanuel Alston. Is that person here? Not here. And then the last person was Jemiah Moore, if I'm saying that correctly, Jemiah Moore. And that is the last one on the list.
Thank you.
Yes, it's Jamia Moore.
Jamia?
But
Okay.
it's fine.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Jamia Moore. I reside on St. Helena Island, where my zip code is 29920. I am a recent graduate of Coastal Carolina University and an information technology management graduate student. In addition to that, I work with Marshview Community Organic Farm Incorporated, and I am a St. Helena Island native as well. My grand uncle, Joseph Cappencrip Legree, was the longest living cast net maker. He made his living by fishing, crabbing, and picking oysters in the same creeks of Pine Island. I would like to have the rights to do the same along with my peers. After going to college and exploring other parts of the world, I've realized that there is no other place like St. Helena Island. The environment, the culture, and the people are unique and should be highly valued. Each of the characteristics of St. Helena Island are mutually exclusive to each other. If the environment and agriculture were to change, so would the culture. And if the culture shifts, then the people who live here would change as well. This is one of the many reasons why I am against the Pine Island development and the St. Helena Islandville development. I consider myself to be a part of the youth community that will be filling the shoes of those that came before us very, very soon. Many of us in that community are working to build a foundation for the life ahead of us. Many of us are receiving an education, learning a trade, running our own businesses, purchasing land, and even buying houses in hopes of securing our future. The Pine Island development would not contribute to our development as a community. It could potentially drive us away from St. Helena. We would also look to other areas for fulfillment of our longing for a secure future for us and our families someday. The development would not create more jobs, provide more housing available to our residents, or allow our ecosystem to thrive or be better than it is now. This could drive the future leaders and residents of St. Helena Island away and disintegrate everything that our ancestors worked so hard to build and maintain. Please understand that the development of Pine Island and St. Helenaville would not only go against the cultural protection overlay, but also negatively impact St. Helena Island's environment, culture, and its people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Okay. At this time, citizen comment period is closed. We will move on with the agenda to number 7, and that will be Mr. Merchant and Mr. Greenway. Recommend approval of an ordinance for text amendments to the Community Development Code, Article 3, Division 3.1, Section 3.1.70, Land Use Definitions, Divisions 3-4, Sections and Overlay Purpose and Cultural Protection Overlay Zone Standards to update land use definitions, recreation facility, golf course, to update definitions and standards in the Cultural Protection Overlay Zone. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Madam
Merchant.
Chairman,
Yes,
if it's okay with you, I'd like to offer that motion so they can, if I can get a second, then they can make their presentation.
okay. We have a motion,
So moved, Madam Chairman.
a second,
I'll second that.
a second, all right. Now we're open for discussion and presentation.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank the committee, the CPO committee. They met 4 times. They did a lot of work with our staff and other people, and just personally would like to thank them for all the work they did. Okay, go ahead.
All right, well, good afternoon. So what we have before us is revisions to the Cultural Protection Overlay District. And as the first sentence in the purpose statement, it's designed to establish, or is established to preserve the rural character and protect the cultural, natural, and historic resources on St. Helena Island. The ordinance was originally adopted by County Council in 1999. And that came out of a community-based planning effort that occurred before that. And it was brought forward and adopted when the county adopted its zoning and development standards ordinance. And then in 2014, when the county adopted its community development code, that same district was carried over in the new ordinance. It is an overlay zone, and I don't know if you're all familiar with that terminology, but the state of South Carolina allows local governments to have overlay zones, and it defines that as to impose a set of requirements or relax a set of requirements imposed by the underlying zoning district when there is a special public interest in a particular geographic area that does not coincide with the underlying zone boundaries. So that's from the state enabling legislation. But what it is you have on St. Helena Island, for example, most of the zoning on the island is T2 rural, with the exception of some areas such as the Corners community where there are more intense zoning districts. That zoning in itself governs the uses that are allowed on St. Helena Island. It's primarily a low-density residential district with agricultural uses and some commercial. What an overlay district does, it's almost like covering it over, and that, in this case, sets 3 additional restrictions, specifically prohibiting golf courses, resorts, and gated communities. So that's, in effect, what the Cultural Protection Overlay District does. At the January 9th Land Use Committee, or Public Services and Land Use Committee, the committee motioned to refer the matter to the Cultural Protection Overlay District Committee to study the existing ordinance with the county's legal department with other outside entities of the committee's choosing to suggest revisions that could be added to reinforce the overlay's purpose and to improve the protection it provides to St. Helena Island. That's a quote of the motion made at the January meeting, and the deadline was set for today, for April 10th. So since that motion was made, and I will mention that the Cultural Protection Overlay District Committee was a committee that was called for in a comprehensive plan and appointed by County Council back in November of 2022. So they had been just newly appointed. Since that motion was made, they met 4 times. January 17th, January 31st, February 21st, and then March 21st. Basically using that time to kind of go over an overview of land use policies on St. Helena Island, work with members, with committee members to kind of, going around the table, trying to identify what it is about the island that they are wanting to protect, what it is that they see as threats to the community, and using that as kind of a basis to begin to guide the discussion. When the work started to take some form, we looked at other documents out there. One was the original language of the Cultural Protection Overlay District from '99, which had a much more detailed purpose statement. We looked at the county's comprehensive plan. We also looked at the work that was done by the federal government in preparation for the Gullah Geechee National Corridor. So all of that was information that the committee looked at in determining, and the primary goal was to make that connection in a purpose statement between what it is that this overlay district does and what it's trying to protect, and what the connection between those two are. That's referred to as a rational nexus. And I wanted to really commend the work of the committee and the chair, Queen Quet. It was a lot of work in putting that together and in meeting the deadline, and they did a really good job in keeping the conversation moving and working us toward this goal. So that's the document you have, is what has been prepared by the committee. As I mentioned earlier, the main efforts or the main changes that you see are the purpose statement has been, definitely revised and added to, bringing in the work that I had mentioned earlier and making that connection. In addition, this revised language looks at some of the definitions tightening up the language to make sure that the definition met what the committee believed to be the intent of what they were trying to protect.
Do you want any of that brought up on the screen, or
Well,
it's in our packet, but,
yeah, I was going to kind of leave that to question and answer if
Okay.
people wanted to get into to that level of detail.
thank you.
I guess that's kind of an overview of the work that the committee did. And I will say that these changes do not really, they don't constitute substantive changes to the Cultural Protection Overlay District. They merely address the purpose statement and then reworking some of the definitions to meet the intent of what was to be protected. So with that, I certainly like to entertain any questions that any might have.
Okay, questions from the committee? And council members? Yes, Councilman Cunningham?
I guess first question would be just so I understand and everyone else in county council understands the process that this happened next. If this fails this committee, does it still go to county council? So either way, it's still going to county council. So any debate we have in this really is gonna happen again in 30 minutes.
In an hour and a half, yeah.
Hour and a half. At 5 o'clock. 'Cause I know it's on our agenda already.
That's right.
I'm just trying to be time sensitive. I do have a lot of discussions and questions about it, but if this is gonna go forward no matter what, whether even if it fails, then I might as well just save that argument for county council, because I will just be repeating myself.
Yeah,
I
and
would
that,
just understand the process of how it's gonna go.
yeah, however you all want to do it, and just keep in mind that for the committee or for council, even though the item is not listed on your agenda, at any time, if the committee or council feels that someone needs to make a motion for an executive session for the receipt of legal advice on this or any other matter on your agenda, you may make that motion if you feel there are questions that you have that you do not want to have answered, legal questions particularly have answered in open session.
Would that be during this committee more beneficial than the county council with time constraints?
It's strictly up to you all.
I will make that motion to go into executive session for legal advice.
I'll second that.
Okay, do we need a roll call vote for that?
I need to understand, Madam Chairman,
The legal
reason
question?
for legal advice that cannot be discussed here in open session. I mean, I understand legal advice, but the issue that we're going to discuss in closed session is one that cannot be ascertained here in the
I
public.
would just like to have the advice from our county attorneys. That is our attorney-client privilege to have that in closed
And I
session.
would say to you that as we move forward, our legal department was already part of this whole discussion. So I think they can discuss that in the public now, but is there something
Let me ask you this, Mr.
specifically?
President. Do you know what the repercussions would be if we took action A or B towards the county? Because I do not. And I would like to hear what the options of outcomes could be from our legal department if we decided to pass this or not pass this.
If you are asking the question, can the county be sued, regardless of whether to take A or B, I would say to you, like you know already, you can sue anybody for anything. So,
Correct.
yes, the county can be sued whether you go A or go B. So that's known, that's knowledge. The question becomes, which way do we go? Whether we go A or B. Either way we go, we'll be sued. And it's just like,
And I'll say my motion still stands for executive session.
Okay, we had a second.
I'll second that.
No, we already had a second. Ms. Tabernack had a second. Would you like to make a comment before we take the vote?
No, I'm just here to answer any additional questions. I think it'd probably be safe for you to do
We'll do.
a roll call vote
And
real quick.
Do we have any discussion before we take the roll call vote?
I'd like to discussion real quick.
Yes, sir.
And my questions are, obviously, Mr. Merchant, this is what's in our packet, and these seem kind of like general terms. I have not seen, usually we get the whatever's being presented that has what's Xed out, what's being changed, and what's there.
We have that.
It's
It's
in there.
here.
It's in
Is it
there.
there?
Yes.
So
It's on
I'll-
page 14.
Yeah, it's fine. Page 14,
Exhibit A.
starts on 14.
Starts on
All right,
14.
I was looking at it online, I didn't see it online, so.
A.
Okay.
It's an attached exhibit.
Yeah,
And it goes
That-
right through the whole,
That is all that I need, then, if that's there.
okay. Any other discussion before we take the
Just
roll
quickly,
call
Madam Chair,
vote?
I make the statement here.
Yes, sir.
There is nothing that is being recommended that change the spirit of the overlay district. It more or less enhances, clarify the definition of the community. It doesn't change anything other than to clarify. But
I think if I understand Councilman Cunningham, he wants legal advice as to if A happens or B happens, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I summarizing that? Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion? Let's take a roll call vote, whether to go into executive session. Will you read the members of council?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Cunningham,
Yes.
Councilmember Tabernick,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartholomew,
No.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Dawson,
No.
Councilmember Glover,
no,
Councilmember Howard,
No.
Councilmember Lawson,
Mark Lawson, yes.
Councilmember Reed,
no.
Chairman Passmore,
Yes.
and Vice Chairman McEllen.
Yes.
Got 6-5.
In favor of going into executive session? I'd like to remind everyone that when we come out, there will be said in public results, if any, of legal advice. So we will adjourn to the executive ECR right over here. We are out of executive session. There was nothing to report from executive session. At this time, we will have Mr. Greenway, who is going to make the second part of the presentation regarding number 7. And we already had a motion, so after his presentation, we will vote.
So thank you,
This is
Madam.
for information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for information, just so the record is clear for everyone in the room who might be watching online or on the county channel, and so the county council can understand that the issue here this evening is about amendments to the CPO, and it's already been clearly stated that there are not substantial changes to the current language of the cultural preservation overlay ordinance. But I've heard over the course of the last several months, when people speak about the issue as it relates to Pine Island, that they do not want to see any development on Pine Island. So I want to make the record clear as to what type of development can occur on Pine Island currently under the current zoning, under the current ordinances. So Brenna, can you pull up my presentation, please? Thank you. Thank you, Brenna. So this is the area of Pine Island here. You can see the island at the end of St. Helenaville Road there. The property does come back in long, narrow strips, and I'll show you applied to the entire piece of property on my next slide. But as you can see, the road that runs parallel to the bottom of the screen there, where the purple and bright green and the striped green areas are, that's Sea Island Parkway on your way out to Hunting Island and Fripp Island past Dawtaw. The purple area there is commonly referred to as the Corners community, or some folks refer to it as Frogmore, but it's really the Corners community. So. All right, so let's go with this. All right, Brenna. I did, I thought. All right, so again, the current zoning of the property is T2R. That allows you to have one dwelling unit per 3 acres with a minimum lot size of a ½ acre per lot. Whenever you're dealing with wells and septic systems, it's really generally hard to get a septic system and a well on a piece of property of anything less than 3/4 of an acre. So about 7.70, 0.75 to an acre in order to do that. Really, you need as much land as it takes to get both the well and the septic system on the property to develop, but generally on average, it's about 3/4 of an acre whenever you're dealing with wells and septic systems. This is the property here, overall laid out through there as you go back to the thing. The reason I have put this here is because I don't want anybody to say, well, that's not really the plat, that's not really the way the property looks, that's not really the size of the property. So I put in a big red circle there, the recording stamps to the right side of the screen, so that folks would know that these are the plats that are recorded in the Register of Deeds office. Property is 429 acres of highlands with 6 acres of wetlands, to give you a total acreage of about 435 acres overall. So as you can see, the property has been subdivided into 3 separate parcels there that total about 360 acres on the main land area. I'm not going to show you that, but one property is real narrow with a neck, and then you have 2 other properties, one to the north and one to the south of the property. That's about 363 acres. And then I'm going back to show you, the next thing I'm going to zoom in on is that island out to the right there off of the causeway. And this is the plat of that area, which is about 72 acres of property. This is surrounded by water and marsh all the way around the property. So under the current zoning, what are you looking at in the way of development? So 429 acres divided by 3, or if you put in the 435, you divide it by 3, you're either looking at 143 or 145 half-acre or greater lots for this property. That's 143 septic systems, 143 wells, about 1,430 vehicle trips per day. Each residential lot, single-family lot, according to the Institute of Traffic Engineers Manual, generates about 9.89 trips per day on the road. And it's been alleged that there could be anywhere from 70 to 95 piers and docks constructed on this property to meet DNR regulations for development on this property. Now, the 72-acre island development, you typically lose about 6% of your property for road construction. I deducted 10% from that, takes you down to about 64.8 acres of developable land area. You multiply that by 43,560 square feet, which is the square footage of an acre. Gives you 2,822,000 square feet of property. You're likely looking at, on average, about a 3/4 acre lot size for the wells and septics. So that's about 32,000 square feet. You divide that 226,88 by 32,670, gives you about 86 potential lots on that island after development. We have repeatedly in Beaufort County spent taxpayer money through the Rural and Critical Lands Program to purchase property and conservation easements using all of these arguments to reduce vehicle trips, to reduce the development of septic systems, to reduce the installation of wells, to reduce piers and docks on our waterways as a reason to spend public money to purchase that property. I wanted to be clear that this development, if is developed underneath this scenario, there is no way that the county can intervene and require the developer of the property to sell us his land for conservation. We cannot force the sale of land for conservation. And the reason I tell you all that is because I've seen comments saying the county should have stopped the sale of this land. The county should have purchased this land. We have tried to do that. We tried to do it before it was sold to the present owner. The owners did not want to deal with the county. There is nothing the county can do legally to intervene to make people sell us their property. We cannot do it. If they don't want to sell it to us, there's nothing we can do here. And this will be the development potential under the current zoning. We're glad to answer any questions for you. I just want to make sure the record's clear on that so that everybody in the room, everybody watching, everybody paying attention to this can know that there is going to be potential development on this property.
Okay, we have questions?
Yes, if I understand you, I got the 143 potential lots on the one property. Does that mean there's another 86 lots besides?
Be
No,
143 total. So
that's-
if 86 go out on the island, the 363 portion of that would be developed with the remaining lots, and then the rest of it would be open space.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just quickly.
Yes, sir.
Pursuing the, and we're talking about a whole other issue than what's on the agenda, but being that you brought that up, I just want a quick question. Are they subject to, this development would be subject to a traffic impact statement?
They'd be subject to all the impact fees.
Okay.
Are you talking about a traffic impact analysis?
Yeah.
Yes, they'll be
Okay.
subject to a traffic impact
Sure.
analysis, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second regarding this, number 7, the changes to the CPO and the CDC. Do we have any other questions or discussion at this time before we go to vote? Anyone? Yes, sir, Councilman.
I do
Cunningham.
have comments, but I will save them for the county council meeting.
Okay. All right, Councilman Glover, did you have a comment?
I know the public participation has been resolved and stuff, but, you know, one of the committee did a heck of a job bringing forth this recommendation, and the chairperson of that committee is here, and I'm just wondering, would you allow the chairperson to make
No,
comments
sir,
and stuff?
we did recognize
Understand.
her, and we appreciate all her hard work.
Okay.
Queen Quet, and we really do appreciate it, but we're not gonna have any more public comment at this time. I'm ready to call the vote. Let's do a roll call vote. Ms. Brunner, will you do that? That's the decision of the chairman. Go ahead.
Councilmember Glover.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeds.
Yes.
Councilmember Bartholomew.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Cunningham.
No.
Councilmember Dawson.
Yes.
Councilmember Howard.
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson.
Mark Lawson, yes.
Councilmember Tabernet.
Yes.
Vice Chair McEllen.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Councilman McCollum.
Sorry, I got that, yes.
And Chairman Passman.
Yes.
10-1. Passes.
It passes. Thank you. At this time, we're going to go on with the agenda, but we'll take a brief break in case anyone wants to go other places.
Do you want to state that it's going to the county council meeting for the actual vote?
Oh,
Because I feel a
yeah.
lot of people think it's actually just.
I would like to state that this will be on the agenda for tonight's county council meeting too. The same. It will go on tonight, yes. All right, everyone staying? Let's go on then. Okay.
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we take items 8 and 9 as one single motion. I
I'll
will
second that
recommend
motion.
those.
Okay, we'll second that motion. Without objection, we will take 8 and 9 together. These are recommend approval of ordinance to accept and allocate funds received from the South Carolina Opioid Recovery Fund and in amounts of $612,733 and $299,376. Yes, sir, Mr.
Good
Thompson.
afternoon. Thank you for hearing this request for a couple of ordinances. Steve Donaldson and I represent Beaufort Alcohol and Drug Abuse Department. One of the things that we have been doing with the South Carolina Opiate Recovery Fund is we've been looking at ways for it to help Beaufort County and its citizens. And there's two different applications that we submitted. We submitted one, which is ordinance number 9, to allow for the expenditure of $299,376 for us to be able to expand capacity within our department, and also to serve citizens that are in the detention center and also those that come to the emergency department. In the second ordinance, what we did was we submitted a second application for $612,733. If you recall, we came here once and asked you for us to be able to submit a notice of funding opportunity to the community. Well, we did that, and we scored a number of applications, and we were recommending that 5 of those get funded. We had to know that before we submitted our application. And then a second portion of this ordinance would be to continue the funding for those positions in the first ordinance so that we don't fall off the fiscal cliff and lose the funding, so we can continue those programs. And then the last portion of this is to allow us to do a prevention and media campaign to make services that are available in Beaufort County much more visible. So we're asking for the county to pass these ordinances to allow us to spend this money so that we can put these programs into implementation.
Okay, anyone on county council have questions? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Donaldson, will this include repeating the program that was offered December 20th, 2022, where the libraries, if you went, you watched a 5-minute video of what to look for, and then the public could get free Narcan?
Actually, that's different funding completely, except for there is one of the applicants that was funded that would be doing that sort of work, that would be actually enhancing on that. But those are different funds. Those we get from the South Carolina Opiate Relief Fund. through State DeOtis and also through a first responder grant that we got through a CF CARA grant where we have our first responders program. So they do that program together.
So there is a possibility that's gonna run again, because that's really a good way to involve citizens in awareness.
We actually are doing that again in April.
Okay.
It's-
Oh, this month,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Mhm.
All right, thanks.
If there are no further questions, we will we will recommend both of these to further action to full council, 8 and 9 items. Without objection? Without objection, this passes. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, number 10 is recommend approval of a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute a lease agreement encumbering property owned by Beaufort County known as a portion of the Crystal Lake Park office building.
This is just standard renewal of the lease that we have with Soil and Water Conservation. Unless you all have any questions, we're ready for you all to adopt.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
A second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion or
Sure,
questions? Yes, sir.
This resolution, does it go to council, or is it, once approved, ends right here?
Goes to council.
It has to go to council. Yeah.
I'll, because of time, I'll discuss that at council when it comes.
Okay.
Okay.
Without objection, this goes forward to full county council. Thank you. Number 11, recommend approval to undertake due diligence and discussions / negotiations for proposed fee simple purchase of a portion of real property known as Cotton Hall. And, are you gonna present that, Mr. Greenway? Okay,
This one's mine. So,
okay.
Anyway, so essentially what's happening here is that as I committed you all some time ago to acquire property for public access to property in the Ace Basin, this isn't totally ideal for the situation because this property only has a little bit of water. It does not give you access to the waterways, but it is a property that's sizable enough for us to work with DNR to turn this into some sort of wildlife management area to allow folks that do not have boats to actually enjoy and participate in recreation in the Ace Basin, which will be the first property in the area that will be available for access to the Ace Basin for the public without actual frontage on the water if they don't own property on the water or they don't own a boat. So I'm very proud of this. I have worked with the State Conservation Bank, who has endorsed this. Rural and Critical Lands has recommended this. So we're just asking for you all to recommend that we go ahead and proceed with the due diligence on the
Do we have a
item.
motion?
So moved.
Councilman Dawson made the motion.
I'll second, Madam Chairman.
Second.
And,
Any discussion?
I would love, I don't know whether we need to amend this or not, but would love the opportunity for council to have a visitation, and if the staff can, I would love to go see it. Now, I have personal interest at this time, I say personal, but community interest, and that is, this property has rice fields, and I am very much interested in pursuing rice opportunities, et cetera, and making sure that, we can have control of the.
I will work with Mr. McShane, that many of you are familiar with, that runs the foundation and has ownership interest in Nemours Plantation, who I've been working with on this, and we'll see if we can make that happen for council.
I appreciate it, yes.
You're welcome.
If nobody else want to go, I would love to go.
Yeah.
I would too.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We'll make sure it happens.
Right.
It's beautiful.
All right, without objection, we'll move this forward to do the due diligence on this property. All right, we'll move that one up.
Thank you, Mr. Glover.
Number 12, recommend approval of a resolution authorizing the demolition of structures on county-owned property known as the Cherry Point Preserve located on Highway 170.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Okay, do we need a second, please?
I'll second.
Who made the original motion?
I did.
Councilman, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize.
Okay, and the second by Councilman Bartholomew. Are there any questions? Ms. Nega's available if you have any. All right. Without objection, this will move forward to full council. Great.
You all can take 13 and 14 as the same item, even though they're different properties if you want to.
I'll make that motion, take 13 and 14 together as one item.
Do we have a second?
I second.
I was gonna
Oh,
second.
you were
it.
ready.
I'm ready. All right, second by Councilman Glover. This is approval of contract award to JH Hires for the Church of God Drainage Improvement Project, and also approval of a contract to Hospice Court in the Drainage Improvement Project, those two. Any questions from Mr. Desai? No. No? All right.
No.
Without objection.
I don't have any.
A lot of smiling faces on any improvements like that.
Both of
Without
these-
objection, this moves forward.
Both of these will need council
They need
approval
council
because
approval because of the dollar
they
amount.
exceed the amount.
All right. Okay, we have a break. We are adjourned until what
Okay.
time, Chairman?